Hey guys, so I'm back. This is just going to be quite a short video actually. Um, we're looking at whether Sony violated the DGA rules. Now, we've already covered most of what we would want to in the Blake Lively video of whether she violated Justin Baldoni's rights under the DGA rules. We're looking at Sony a little bit differently, and the reason for that is they're a DGA signatory employer. So therefore, they can violate the DGA basic agreement, which was something that didn't apply to Blake Lively because she is not a DGA member. Okay, so there's multiple areas. Allowing Lively into the edit during the director's cut. Now, Lively was kind of sending messages through Todd Black and through Sony about all her demands, which were, I want to come into the edit and join you. And that's how it started in February. Then it escalated by the start of April. It was she wants her own time in the editing room with her own editor. Now, I kind of worked out because the basic agreement, the DDA basic agreement, gives 10 weeks of protected time for a director to complete their cut unsupervised and uninterrupted. I kind of worked out from the 22nd of February that Justin Baldoni had till the 2nd of May. But I have just found a text message which suggests that that time may have actually been extended, quite likely due to the interruption. So we'll look at that when we get to it. But so if we look at 501 is where I want to go. So there's going to be unfortunately, I can't help it, but there's going to be a bit of scrolling back and forth. So 501, the director shall be responsible for the presentation of his or her cut. No one other than the director may supervise the editing of the first cut, etc., etc. And by kind of allowing Lively to force her way into the editing room, that violates that. Where is it? 505. The director shall prepare the director's cut of the film for presentation to the individual producer and to the person designated in the director's deal memo as having final cutting authority. So, and again, the editor will make no further changes except under the director's instructions until the completion of the director's cut. So essentially, what that's saying is no one may supervise editing except the director. So that's that problem of just at the early point where they were allowing Lively into the edit during the director's cut. When we get to the part where Lively is actually getting her own time in solo time in the editing time with her own editor, that for me is like the most serious issue. It conflicts with quite a few areas. Right, okay. This, anytime the employer assigns a person other than the director to supervise the editing of such first cut, employer shall send the guild written notice thereof, not later than 1 day following the assignment. We know from Wayfarer's timeline that it was Sony who relayed her escalated demands that she be allowed solo time in the editing suite with her own editor back in April, well within Baldoni's protected time. But even if it wasn't in Baldoni's protected time, there has to be written notification from Sony to the guild within 1 day. And I haven't seen anything that suggests that that was done. It does affect other sections as well. Yeah, okay. So if we go back to the top, no one may direct, as the term direct is generally known in motion picture industry except the editor assigned to the picture. We already know that there is a written contract which clearly designates and assigns Justin Baldoni as the director. We've seen that. We've seen it, that contract so many times, actually. It is the Wayfarer Sony agreement. Clause 6 clearly states that Justin Baldoni is to direct. So when Blake Lively is sitting in an editing studio creating her cut, effectively she is a de facto director. And then subsection 208, there will only be one director assigned to direct a motion picture at any given time. So that's formally and informally as well. Allowing Lively to replace the composer and, well, Baldoni's team, which is essentially what she said she had done in her email to Sarah Rule. If we just refresh our memory very quickly of that email. I was filming one movie when the studio took the film from the director of the movie I was in post on, and asked me to take over. Now, I'm sure she's talking out of her arse, in all honesty. I'm sure that this is all as a result of her demands, and it's not that the studio took the film. But I have to take at face value, what is written here. This is what she has relayed to a third party. And she goes on to say, so I've been re-editing the entire film. I brought on my composer and whole team to redo everything. I just finished final sound mix in LA yesterday, flying back now to do final color time this week. These are all protected directorial responsibilities. They are director-only functions, so allowing her to perform sound mix and color timing violates that function, basically. Also, allowing her to replace the composer and team. Now, if we go back to the basic agreement, to rotate, yeah, the director shall participate in all decisions with respect to, and it clearly says post-production. It says all the other things too: construction, pre-production, shooting, etc., casting, employment of artistic and creative personnel, location selection. And we know that she kind of steamrolled over most of that, but there was a bit of collaboration and they were talking, so that's why I'm not kind of focusing too much there. By the time post-production came about, we know fine well that this was all under extortion. So anything that happens creatively, including the post-production time, the director has to participate on all decisions, and she did not. Now, would that include the creation of the trailer? It would. So what would happen then if, Wayfarer didn't want to approve her trailer and Sony, a DGA signatory, sent an email that looked like this to essentially the director? I appreciate this has gone to Jamie Heath. Obviously, Jamie Heath is going to relay this information to Justin Baldoni. But this is a threat. That is a problem. It's a violation of the DGA rules. And it's an interference with the director's creative process. And then we've got kind of the final elements of, including this email where Lively herself is putting in her own words all the directorial actions that she's taken. And she's saying it is at the behest of Sony. I don't believe that, but that's, what she's written. You've also got to take into account her PGA letter, which has supporting letters from 2 Sony executives, Ange Giannetti and Josh Greenstein, who knew fine well what was going on, knew fine well that Baldoni's rights were being violated, and still wrote that letter anyway. And I've kind of gone through that bit really quickly because, like I say, we've already done it once with the Lively video, so I don't want to rehash it too much. I wanted to kind of come back here and look at, what action could be taken against Sony, because no action could have been taken against Lively, but there were remedies which I went through. But this is a different scenario. So what could the DGA take? What action could the DGA take against Sony for its participation and role in all of this? Well, they could file a formal grievance against Sony. That's kind of like a first step. It's the first step towards arbitration, certainly, and that arbitration is another step as well. Arbitration is legally binding, so they can, the arbitrator can order Sony to comply with Article 7. It can impose financial penalties. It can issue a binding directive about the cut. It could require Sony to compensate Justin. And arbitration decisions are enforceable in court. It's important to kind of remember that. The other actions that Sony could take are to demand immediate corrective action. And what that could look like is remove the unauthorized individuals from the edit. We're obviously past some of this, but these are options in general. Restore the director's access. So they could go back and redo the whole film, in theory. Stop any ongoing interference. Again, we're past that, but it's something that should this happen again, or should we end up doing it starts with us, then, these are things that could be taken into account. They could also reverse improper editorial supervision and reinstate the director's authority. This is not optional for a signatory studio, by the way. Obviously, like I say, we're past the point of a lot of that particular, like, immediate corrective action, but it is an option. What would be more applicable here is they could compel Sony to reopen the edit. So if the director was excluded or overridden, the DGA can require Sony to reopen the cut, restore the director's cut period, and allow the director to redo the work that was taken from them. And this is one of the most powerful remedies because it directly affects the film itself. And I know that a lot of us want to see Justin's cut. There are petitions all over the place. I would love to see his cut. And I know many of you would. Other possible actions, monetary penalties against Sony. So they can seek damages, penalties, reimbursement of the director's legal fees, compensation for lost creative rights. And studios take this seriously because arbitration awards can be expensive. There's the option of public or industry-wide sanctions. This is quite rare, but the DJ can issue a public statement. They can censure the studio and they can warn other directors about the studio's practices. And studios do not like this because it affects their ability to hire top directors. DJ could also force Sony to change its practices. That could look like retraining executives, changing post-production protocols, implementing new compliance procedures, preventing actors or producers from entering the edit without authorization. This is a structural remedy, not just a punishment. DJ can also support Justin Baldoni in seeking additional remedies, so they can provide legal support, documentation, expert testimony, and they can assist in parallel disputes, for example, arbitration. And this strengthens the director's position quite dramatically. So, the DGA contract binds the employer, not the actor. And I keep saying employer because that is the term that is in the DGA basic agreement. But obviously, Sony is not an employer. They were a partner. Wayfarer it's a bit of a mishmash because is Justin an employer of Wayfarer? Technically, yes, I guess so. He is co-founder and obviously, the head of Wayfarer. But I suppose he would be considered an employee of Wayfarer. But Sony was the partner. However, the basic agreement does just keep saying employer. So I'm just kind of reiterating what it says there. When I say employer, I am talking about either Sony or Wayfarer potentially, but Wayfarer have not breached anything. They've not violated anything because they did not want to do all of these things that they were kind of coerced into doing. So the DGA contract binds Sony, not the actor, not Lively. So while Lively's conduct is the cause, the liability kind of falls on Sony because they allowed it. They kind of facilitated it almost. They granted access in quite a few scenarios. They gave her solo editing time. They let her supervise Justin Baldoni's cut, and then they allowed her to produce her own cut. And then they let her. I'm saying let. They didn't fight hard enough. They may not have been open armed about it, but I don't believe they advocated strongly enough. And Sony bowed to Lively, to WME, to Ryan Reynolds quite a lot. There's a lot of evidence of that. And just the pure fact that people like Matt Damon and Lucy Damon were prepared, or did, I don't know if they did, but I think they did, to contact Tim Rothman, the CEO of Sony, as was Warren Zavala, who was prepared to call in a favor even, to bypass all of these rights that Justin Baldoni had. And that includes the bake-off rights. That is absolutely nuts. So under the DGA, the studio is responsible for protecting the director's rights, even from other producers or actors. So that's kind of it, really. Yeah, that's kind of it where we are now. So there are actions, a lot of actions actually, that Justin Baldoni or Wayfarer could take against Sony. Again, I do not think they're going to, but it's just fun to go through this stuff and see what is available. I'm now going to just proceed on, I think, with the next video, which is going to be, I'm going to put a side-by-side comparison of Blake Lively's actions and the impact on two guilds, the PGA and the DGA. I may also do a side video, if it's worth it, on Ryan Reynolds because I completely forgot after I'd done my video and I said, oh, these people are members of this guild and these people are members of this guild. I completely forgot Ryan Reynolds is actually also a member of the PGA, not just the WGA. So I wanted to look at what effect his conduct that we know about have in terms of any PGA rules that have been violated. So I'm going to go away and have a think about it, and if it's worth doing, I will do that. But yeah, my next video is going to be a comparison of Blake Lively's conduct, and because it's the same conduct that seemed to violate rules for two different guilds. So I wanted to compare and contrast that. But the great message I'm getting is obviously Ryan Reynolds violated WGA rules. Blake Lively violated PGA rules. She also trampled over Justin Baldoni's DGA rules. And what I'm getting from these people is that they do not give a shit about these guilds or the standards that the guilds hold them to. They don't care. That's my big takeaway from this. I can look at logistically at all the individual rules and say, well, people have got these rights and, this award could be rescinded. But my overall impression of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively is these memberships, whilst, it seemed to be everything for Lively to get her PGA mark, she really does not give a shit about being held to the standards. And neither does Ryan Reynolds. And that really undermines the significance of the award in the first place.